Hello and welcome to the Spargur Yarn Crafts channel. My name is WSpargur. I am your host. I am coming to you from Henderson, Nevada, where I live with my two dogs, Princess and Duchess, my roommate Delilah, and her dog Duke. Today is episode 51. It has been a long time since I have filmed a podcast, actually since I filmed any video for this channel. I apologize that I've been away for as long as I have. Part of the thing with this quarantine was kind of figuring out how to cope with being at home as much. And I kind of was trying to decide whether or not to continue filming podcasts or to kind of wait until things kind of returned to the outside world. And I kind of decided that maybe one of the best things to do is to try to provide some sense of normalcy as much as possible. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and film as often as I would have normally. That did require me getting to a point where I was comfortable filming again, because, y'all, I'm a hot mess right now. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for finding my channel and clicking on this video. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. There are a few ways you can support me in the channel. You can like this video, you can subscribe, and you can share this video with your friends if you like it. If you are interested in any of my other social medias or any of the other things, there's links in the video description box below. You're going to find my Instagram, my Ravelry, my everything about my dyeing company, Spargur Yarn Co. You're going to find so many different links in there. Tools and different things that I use have links, affiliate links. There's also information about the tools that I use to film my podcast, if that's any of the information that you're interested in. That is all in the video description box below, so you can check that out. So let's move right along, because I do actually have quite a few things to show you today, a lot of them very large, so it might take me a little bit to get through them. So let's go ahead and start with our works in progress. I have a few that I want to show you. And the first one is going to be one that you guys have seen before. And I haven't made a whole lot of progress on it, but I felt like it was still worth showing. I gotta untwist it. Having more than one ball of yarn tied in is always a problem. So, this is the work in progress I'm currently working on. It's kind of, I have two knitting projects at the moment. I have this and a sweater, and the sweater I haven't done anything on since last podcast. So this shawl is my own design, and it is also in my own hand-dyed yarn. And it is called Mosey On Down the Fade, and the reason I'm doing that is because, one, these colors are going to slowly fade together, but also because there's this beautiful mosaic patterning in here. And so Mosey is a play on the mosaic, and then fade is because it will fade. So it's called Mosey On Down the Fade. I don't know when I'm going to have this released or when I'm going to have it to testers or anything like that. I'm slowly working on it myself. With being at home more, I have been trying to stash bust, and so we're going to talk about what I've been working on in order to do that. But it's been a labor of love, and so the two colorways I'm using here is we have Cinnamon Cider, and then we have this bluish purple is called Hyacinth. Those are both semi-solid colorways that are available on the Spargur Yarn Co shop. So yeah, that's something I've just been working on, and hopefully we'll have it done kind of soon. I'm knitting this on US 5s, which is a 3.75 millimeter. So that's the first work in progress. The other two works in progress encompass, well, basically they are the product of, oh my goodness, I don't know what I did. I'll figure that out later. They're the product of what I'm trying to do with getting through my stash. I think it is very important to try and get through my stash because I'm tired of looking at it, one. And two, I just felt that this was a good opportunity to do so. I have plenty of time, I have the opportunity, I have all the tools and everything that I need, it's all here. So, the first one, actually, so these two projects are essentially the same thing, but in different weights of yarn. This is a scrap blanket that I'm working on. So what's really interesting about this is it's something that I came up with. So it's all double crochet. And then here in the corners, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see, there are these textured square areas where there is a double crochet, front post, treble crochet together over a certain number of stitches, and that helps. So when you crochet in the round, even on a square, it's going to slowly spiral just because of the way that crochet is set up. And I didn't like that, so the bits in the corner kind of help avoid that spiral bit. So what I'm doing is I'm essentially taking scrap balls of worsted weight yarn, and I am just one at a time adding them in. The other thing that, because I kind of came up with the idea for this, is this is not worked row by row or round by round. This is actually worked up in a spiral. So every time you get to a corner, you're building on top of the corner, and there's no, like, you're not gonna finish the round, chain up, and start the next round. It just keeps going in a spiral. So I thought that that was really cool. Oh, you can see on my ends there. I thought that was a really cool way to use up the yarn. The great thing about doing that is every time I run out of whatever yarn I've just tied in, you just tie in the next ball and keep going. So you don't have to cut your yarn or anything like that. And the idea with this blanket was to use up as much yarn as I could. So this is actually the product of multiple blankets. So this is what I'm using my leftovers for. Now, because I've finished a lot of the other blankets that I'm going to show you here in a minute, what I have left over is a bunch of like smaller skeins of really old yarn. So like, this is Red Heart from years ago that I got from a family member, from another family member who passed away. So I have all of these single skeins, and as this gets bigger, I start using the bigger skeins because they don't go as far. So while it looks striped, it is actually worked in a spiral, and I thought that that was pretty cool. So I mentioned in my last podcast that I plan on doing a couple of blanket tutorials. And so this is going to be one of the patterns that I show in that tutorial, or one of the tutorials I want to do is a tutorial on how to do this style of blanket, and then there's going to be a tutorial for this other blanket that I'm going to show you here in a minute. So that's the worsted weight version. Same thing, trying to use up scraps. So this is my fingering weight version. So these are all my leftover scraps of fingering weight yarns that I have so far. I actually don't have a lot of fingering weight scraps. I tend to use them in other things. This one's starting to spiral a little bit too, but several of these are my hand dyed. Well, two of these are my hand dyed. So in the middle here we have Aurora Borealis. The white and blue is Lolo Did It in something blue. The maroon here is Mrs. Crosby yarn, I think. The yellow, purple, and pink is Dutch Tulips from mine. And then the white and gray kind of up here on the last edge, that is the Sock Lab from Knit Picks. So those 5 different yarns have been incorporated. I actually don't have any fingering weight scraps left, so what I'm doing now is I'm kind of going through some of the test skeins that I've dyed for my shop, or some of the yarn mops where I just threw a skein in to soak up the rest of the dye. I have several of those. I have some skeins that either weren't labeled or they were things that were given to me that I didn't really see myself using for anything else. So I caked up a few of those, and I'm just going to use the full balls and just add them in. So what'll probably happen now is I'll just one at a time add a ball of yarn into this blanket. This is being worked on a 4.5mm hook. The bigger one is being worked on a 6mm hook. And I actually really like, so I decided to splurge, and I got the Turquoise Odyssey hook from Furls. And this is gorgeous. It's weighted, it's so slick, it's so nice to work with. If you are a crocheter and you treat yourself to one nice hook, I recommend furls all the way. I can crochet for hours, no cramping. It's definitely worth a look at. Woo! And I just touched my glasses. Of course I did. Okay. Also, I don't know if you can hear I have a fan in here now, because, again, my studio's in my garage. And it's starting to get hot in Vegas. So, whew, it's warm. So, let's move on to some finished objects. You can't see it, but there's a stack about this high. It's actually really, yeah, it's high. These are all of the things that I have finished since the last podcast. Also, there's one on the mannequin. So this, with the tassel, and this, are the same pattern. It's called the Turnabout Cowl by Carissa Browning. It is a granny-style cowl, and it is actually a really nice pattern. And this one here is in Lion Brand Mandala. And the one up there is Lion Brand Kobu, which is a cotton bamboo blend. I really liked both of these. I typically don't like cotton, but I found that that is actually really, really nice to work with. And of course, I love Lion Brand Mandala. I use it regularly. So those are two finished objects that were really quick. I think I did both of them in a day. And I think I used whatever hook the yarn recommends. So I think 5.5 is I think what I used on both of those, because the pattern is actually for fingering weight and a smaller hook, but I didn't want to do fingering weight because I didn't have anything caked up at the time, and I actually didn't have anything to attach my ball winder to at the time. So I had to use whatever I had, so I went up a hook size for whatever was recommended for the yarn. So part of what I did over quarantine, or during quarantine, is again, trying to use up as much yarn as I possibly could. So what I did is I had all of this yarn that was sent to me. It was old, but it was still nice, could be used. I started one blanket that I was doing in one style. Then I took the remainder of that skein and started working on a second blanket in a different style. Then whatever was left over went into the third blanket that I showed you in the works in progress. So this is the first blanket that I had worked on. And this, if you can kind of tell, is like a log cabin style blanket. So it was only worked over 2 edges. It's kind of seen best in the middle than the outer edges, but you can kind of see there how I only worked over 2 edges at a time. Instead of going all the way and around, I did back and forth over 2 edges, and then I switched and worked over the next 2 edges. So, really, really fun labor of love. I finished off with 2 rounds of granny in black, a round of double crochet, and then a round of half double crochet in white to give it a nice finished look, and to also really corner off the corners. I'm kind of a stickler for whether or not my square blankets have very pointy corners. So the only thing that this needs now is it needs to have the ends woven in, and then it needs to be put in the wash, and it should be good to go. This was also worked on a 6mm hook. All of the blankets, all of the granny blankets that I'm about to show, and one other one, were worked on 6mm hooks. Like I said, a lot of these are big, so I have to fold them back up, because I can't just throw them down anymore. Okay. The next one is my favorite, and the largest of the group. And this I actually still have some ends that need to be woven in, but it has been through the washer already. This is the Sacred Space Blanket. It's huge! Very, very proud of the work I did on this. I'm going to slowly drop it down so that you can see all the fun edging and stitching and stuff. But I finally did it. I finally finished it. It is a queen-sized blanket. And, the designer Helen Shrimpton. She has many of these Afghans, and many Afghan designs, anyway. I'm sorry, that one's going to be really hard to show. If you want to see more of that, if I can, I'll try to put a picture of the finished object at the end, because it's really heavy. This is all using Lion Brand Mandala and Lion Brand Woolies. So these are really nice. They're really soft. Again, I do have to weave in the ends. I haven't finished that yet. But very nice. I'm missing something. Oh, here it is. Wait, what? No. Okay. So I've got another one. Actually, I'm working on a second sacred space. The reason I didn't bring it is I'm using a gradient yarn and fingering weight, and it started from the inside of the cake. So if I move, I've got it set up to where I can work on it and the cake of yarn doesn't move. If I move it, the whole cake's gonna demolish and fall in on itself and then it'll get tangled. So I didn't move it because I'm actually not cutting the yarn on that one, like you are supposed to if you're changing colors. So yeah, working on a second sacred space, and then I'm going to work on another one of her patterns called The Lost Garden, and I had yarn purchased to start it, and then I was going to buy more in the future, but the only way I can do that now is to order it through Michael's and have it shipped, but then I'm kind of sitting here going, I don't want to start it until I've finished a few things, and I don't know if it'll be in stock by then, so just kind of sitting on it and deciding on what I want to actually make the next one out of. We'll see. I've got a few options. This is another blanket I made. This is just using two Caron cakes, and it's just a simple granny. Yeah. Well, not simple. It's the log cabin idea, but because of the way it self-stripes, you can't really tell that. But I thought it was cute. It's a really fun little, it's a baby blanket. I know a few people who are pregnant who will probably be giving birth around the time that this should all be over if we do this correctly. So that'll be a gift. Again, I've got to weave in the ends. I'm terrible about weaving in the ends once I've finished it. Should have woven them in as I went. This is a sewing project, not a knitting or crochet project, but I thought it was fun anyway. I made a t-shirt quilt. And these are just some t-shirts somebody gave me. They were donated. I wasn't going to wear the t-shirts, but I liked, I thought they had some cool designs on them, and I thought this would be a fun way to actually try out doing a t-shirt blanket. And then I actually just backed it with like a old purple fleece that I had. It was like a dog blanket at one point. So yeah, t-shirt blanket, a lot of fun. It didn't take me very long to sew it out, to cut it out and sew it. Just a fun little thing I did. Wanted to show you guys. My sewing machine is there. I redid the studio. I forgot to mention that here at the beginning. I removed the blanket that was hanging up. I wanted to go kind of back to the white wall and put the banner to where you could see it. And I put a shelf up there where my ball winder and Swift stay, and then the mannequin, of course, so I can display different patterns when, like shawls and stuff, when I finish them. So, yeah. The next blanket, this is the second one I had worked on, is another granny blanket. And this one I did as a regular granny in the round, but because I wanted this to be longer than it was tall, I got to an end and then I started doing stripes, and I started striping using leftover yarns until I got to the top, and I just did a single one in red. And then I did one round of granny in black, and then I did my double crochet and half double crochet edging in Caron Simply Soft. The ends were woven in on this one, believe it or not. And this has been through the wash. It's nice and soft. It lays really well. It's perfect for me and my bed. I sleep on a twin bed, so this is perfect if I'm just lounging. So I try to make my bed every morning, and so sometimes when I take a nap, I don't want to unmake the bed, so I'll move the pillows and I'll just sleep on top of my comforter. But then I'll always have another blanket that I can just pull up if I get too cold. So this will go on my bed to use there. For that reason, actually. And now that I'm working from home, I find that I take naps on my lunch break. I've been really tired recently. And I read somewhere that the need to sleep right now is actually your body's trauma response, and even if you aren't consciously feeling like you're doing anything traumatic, your body is still treating this as a trauma scenario, and so the sleep is just your body trying to process it. So if my body tells me I'm tired, I go to bed. Or I take a nap or whatever. Sometimes, there was a day I went to bed at 3:30 in the afternoon and I didn't wake up till the next morning. So, yeah. The last one is the first blanket, the very first blanket I finished. And this one is huge. This is also queen-sized. And I just used a lot of different yarns that I had in my stash. This was also on a 6mm hook, and then I bordered it. A lot of blankets, guys. A lot of blankets. I don't even want to fold that one back up, because that's the next one I'm going to weave all the ends in on, so might as well just leave it unfolded. Anyway, I am sweating like a pig in here. That is all I have to show you. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I don't really have anything else to share. I'm even going to take this off because, wow. I don't really have anything else to share. It's hot in Vegas. I'm dyeing more yarn. It looks like we're going to be working from home until May 1st, and my company is monitoring the situation and deciding whether or not we are going to be, well, they've said that we will be following the advice of medical professionals, which I believe means they are going to put the employees ahead of profit. At least I hope that's what that means. Which I believe is also something that a lot of the employees have expressed, which is even if they do reopen, we're not going back to the office unless we know that this is okay and safe to do so. So I believe our CEO is looking to follow the advice of medical professionals, which is good. Our governor is also very adamant about keeping people safe and saving lives, and is putting people over the economy, which I agree with, personally, just because, well, just because I think life is more valuable, personally. But anyway, whew, it is warm, guys. It is warm. It is very warm. So I don't think I have anything else for you guys. I should have a knit crate arriving very soon. I'm hoping here within the next, should be here tomorrow actually. This is Sunday, so it should be here tomorrow. So there should be a knit crate video coming out soon, and then I am going to get to work on those crochet tutorials as soon as I can. The idea is I would preferably like to film in the morning if I can when it's cooler, but if I can't, oh well, we'll film in the afternoon. The great thing is, I guess you're not going to see my hands sweating, so we'll jump into that when I can. I also need to make sure that I have everything ready to go for those tutorials. So that is also coming up in the future. I'm considering the idea of doing some vlogging. I don't know if that's something people are interested in. I really don't... I don't think my life is super interesting outside of the things that I film for this channel, but, you know, what people find interest in is very different than, you know, maybe what I find interesting. I also have no idea even how to begin starting any kind of vlogging and the editing and everything that's going to go into that, because I've watched some really good popular vlog channels, even from other dyers, and I'm just like, how do you have the time? But now I'm sitting at home going, I've got time. So I don't know. I'll think about it, play around with it. I have the tools, so I don't know. Maybe we'll try it. Maybe you'll find my life interesting. Maybe you won't. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I am going to go sit in front of a box fan for about 30 minutes. So please stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and I hope that you are getting through this as best as we all can right now. I'll say I definitely acknowledge the privilege that I have to be able to work from home. I know that is not a privilege that everyone has. So, you know, I know that I have that privilege, and I know that I actually, you know, I have things better than a lot of people. So, you know, I'm not saying that. I'm definitely not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that if it sounds like I'm saying anything wrong, just understand that I do know that I'm privileged in this situation. So that being said, please stay home, stay safe, do whatever you can to, you know, keep you and your family healthy, and hopefully I will see you again here very soon on the Spargur Yarn Crafts podcast channel. Thank you. Mwah.